The company inheritance goes to blood relatives only, not outsiders, unannounced at Thanksgiving. The family nodded approvingly. I smiled and stayed quiet. The next day, I contacted my financial advisor. Withdraw my $75 million investment from Smith Enterprises. Her phone started buzzing. The company inheritance goes to blood relatives only, not outsiders. Aunt Patricia announced at our Thanksgiving dinner, her voice cutting through the warm chatter like a knife through butter. She raised her wine glass with theatrical flair, her eyes scanning the table for approval from our extended family gathered in Phoenix, Arizona. Smith Enterprises has been built by real family members and it will stay that way. The dining room fell silent, except for the gentle clinking of silverware against china. Uncle Robert nodded approvingly from his seat at the head of the table, while my cousins Jessica and Brandon exchanged satisfied glances. Even my adoptive parents, who had brought me into this family 25 years ago, seemed uncomfortable, but said nothing. My name is Martha Collins, and at 28 years old, I had learned to navigate these family gatherings with careful composure. I smiled politely and took a sip of my sparkling cider, letting Patricia's words wash over me like water off a duck's back. What they didn't know wouldn't hurt them, at least not yet. I mean, we can't have just anyone thinking they're entitled to what we've worked so hard to build. Patricia continued, her gaze settling on me with barely concealed disdain. Some people need to understand their place in this family. I felt the familiar sting of exclusion, but I had grown accustomed to it over the years. Being adopted into the Smith family had always come with an asterisk, a constant reminder that I wasn't quite one of them, despite sharing their name and sitting at their table every holiday. Patricia makes an excellent point, chimed in my cousin Jessica, who worked as marketing director at Smith Enterprises. The company has thrived because we keep it in the family. We understand the business in ways that outsiders simply cannot. I nodded thoughtfully, as if considering the wisdom of her words. You're absolutely right, Jessica, family loyalty is everything in business. What they couldn't see was the quiet confidence I carried, the secret knowledge that had been growing inside me for the past 5 years like a seed waiting for the right moment to bloom. As I listened to their self-congratulatory speeches about bloodlines and belonging, I felt a calm satisfaction knowing that their entire world was built on foundations far more fragile than they could ever imagine. The evening ended with Patricia's final proclamation. When the time comes to discuss inheritance and succession planning, we'll make sure everything goes to the right people, real family members, who have earned their place. The drive home from Phoenix to my apartment in Scottsdale gave me time to reflect on the evening's events. Patricia's words echoed in my mind, but they no longer carry the power to wound me as they once had. Instead, they served as a reminder of how much had changed since my grandmother's passing 5 years ago. My maternal grandmother, Helen Morrison, had been the one person in my life who truly understood me. She had watched from the sidelines as the Smith family treated me like a perpetual guest rather than a daughter, and she had made her displeasure known in the most practical way possible. Through her will, when grandmother Helen died, she left me her entire estate, $75 million accumulated through decades of shrewd investments in real estate and technology stocks. The inheritance had been a complete shock to everyone, including me. Helen had lived modestly, and no one suspected the true extent of her wealth. Use this wisely, Martha, her letter had said. You have a brilliant mind for business, and I trust you to make decisions that honor both your intelligence and your character. At 23, I had been overwhelmed by the responsibility and the opportunity. I could have bought a mansion, traveled the world, or lived lavishly for the rest of my life. Instead, I had made a decision that would prove far more satisfying in the long run. Smith Enterprises had been struggling at the time. The manufacturing company that Patricia's grandfather had founded was facing serious financial difficulties, caught between rising costs and declining orders. The family had been desperately seeking investors, though they had been careful to keep their troubles quiet to maintain their social standing. I had approached my financial advisor, Douglas Whitman, with a proposal. I want to invest anonymously in Smith Enterprises, set up shell companies and legal trusts to hide my identity completely. Douglas had raised his eyebrows. That's a significant risk. Martha, why would you want to help a company that might fail? Because sometimes the best investments are the ones that no one else believes in. I had replied, though my real motivation was far more complex. Through a fully constructed network of holding companies and offshore trusts, I had invested the entire $75 million in Smith Enterprises. The injection of capital had saved the company from bankruptcy and allowed it to modernize its operations, expand its product line, and return to profitability. The family had celebrated their salvation, attributing it to their hard work and business acumen, rather than acknowledging the mysterious foreign investor who had appeared just when they needed it most. They had no idea that their savior was sitting at their Thanksgiving table listening to them declare her unworthy of inheritance. The next morning, I sat in my home office reviewing the quarterly reports that had arrived from Douglas's firm. The numbers told a story of remarkable success. Smith Enterprises had not only recovered from its near bankruptcy, but had grown into one of the most profitable manufacturing companies in the Southwest. My $75 million investment had grown to control 51% of the company's shares, making me the majority owner. I picked up my phone and dialed Douglas's direct line. Good morning, Douglas. I hope you had a pleasant Thanksgiving, Martha. Yes, thank you. I trust yours was enlightening. Douglas had been managing my investments long enough to understand the family dynamics at play, very much so in fact. I'm calling because I've made a decision about my Smith Enterprises holdings. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Oh, what kind of decision? I want to begin the process of withdrawing my entire investment, all $75 million plus accumulated returns. The silence stretched longer this time. Martha, are you certain that's going to create significant financial disruption for the company? They become dependent on that capital? I'm completely certain. How quickly can we execute the withdrawal, given the size of the investment, and the legal structures we put in place? I'd estimate 30 to 60 days for a complete liquidation. But Martha, this will likely force the company into bankruptcy. Is that really what you want?